What's going on, guys? Inside the Blue Podcast here, and today we have a Week 3 preview. Giants taking on the Cleveland Browns, a Week 3 preview, of course. Giants are 0-2, not a hot start, and a game that they could have won last week, no kicker. They decided to sign a kicker now, Greg Joseph, so I think the Giants have a kicker now who is hopefully going to play the entire football game. And regardless, the team needs to try and put up points, playing a pretty good defense and a pretty good team all around. And I know, another tough team on the Giants' schedule. The first week of the next, few weeks of a gauntlet that I call it, taking on Cleveland first. Like they got some guys on that team that can play football. They got always a good offensive line. So another big test for the big three. But right now, that big three, where it supposedly contains of Kayvon Thibodeaux, Brian Burns, and Dexter Lawrence, only Dexter Lawrence has been the workhorse and the contributor to this team. Brian Burns hasn't done anything so far as a Giant, and Kayvon Thibodeaux has not been good either. He was limited to practice, I think yesterday or the day before because of a shoulder. But regardless, the team needs to get pass rush from those guys. Like, that's what's going to help them win football games and get them off the field. And I guess since we're talking about Brian Burns and the defense, Shane Bowen's got to call a much better game and make adjustments. Because what he called against Washington was not good. He couldn't figure out Jaden Daniels at all. I don't understand how Bowen did not realize that Jaden Daniels isn't a QB that throws it, 30 yards, 20-plus yards out of the air. Like, he doesn't. Take it on, a different type of QB. I'm pretty sure it's Jacoby Brissett. If I'm not no, it's not Jacoby Brissett. I honestly don't even remember who the QB is, but I don't know. I don't think it's like Deshaun. Is it Deshaun Watson? Am I tripping right now? I don't know why. I don't know why I think it's someone else. I think I'm thinking of the Thursday night football game of tonight with the Jets and Patriots. But regardless, they're taking on a quarterback that is better than ours. And it's annoying. Daniel Jones needs to play good, and if not better than he was in Week 2, he was better in Week 2. But also, he was versing Washington, and I probably would make an argument that wasn't like some great performance. It was a good performance. It was only, 180 yards passing, something like that, and like 16 of 28 completions, if I'm not mistaken. So Daniel Jones needs to improve. We know they have Malik Nabers. Malik Nabers is their guy, right? This guy's getting all the target share, all of that. That's their go-to guy. So I don't know how they're going to contain Malik Nabers this week. Malik Nabers took on some pretty trash cornerbacks in Week 2. He had a day, and now Daniel Jones and Brian Dable and Nabers, they all have to be on the same page if they even want to have a shot at winning this game. It's on the road in a tough environment in Cleveland, so it's going to be a tight game regardless. It's going to be a tough game, and the Giants need to obviously move the football downfield and let's sling it, man. Let's sling it. I'm tired of seeing just checkdowns. We ran the ball really well in Week 2, using a lot of that duo package, and I think they ran it like 61%, so really good stuff there. Need to continue running the football well. Devin Singletary had a good game last week besides the fumble. We have a kicker, which is huge because we all know the situation last week. And I guess getting into it, since I'm already talking about the kicker situation and all this, because I know Giants fans, in particular a few that I talk to off the podcast, like some of my buddies, because they always want my honest opinions on Joe Shane and Brian Dable, and I'm going to give it you here since I didn't give it to the extended version of the Commanders versus Giants. I just didn't feel I needed to make enough. I didn't need to make another video after making one of the instant reaction. I thought I honestly put everything that I wanted to say in that video, so you're getting my opinion now in the Week 3 preview. So, the Giants team, in my opinion, it's more of a Joe Shane problem than a Brian Dable problem. Now, I think the reason how Brian Dable can get fired is, not respecting the media. Like, we will admit he's not great with the media. We can admit that. I can admit he's a good coach. I can say that. I think Dable is good, and Joe Schoen is not giving him nearly enough talent to work with. They still have Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones was a get-a-win project. Joe Schoen gave him the $40 million contract. Jones did make the playoffs. So it would be incredibly wrong to not give him a contract. And they could get out of it pretty much out of that second year. So I know a bunch of people are saying, oh, they're screwed with the Daniel Jones contract. They're going to be screwed if he gets injured. If he gets hurt, then they're going to get screwed. And prayers that obviously nobody gets hurt on the Giants team. But my stance is of course week 2 falls on Brian Dable and Joe Schoen. Of course it does. Because that game was on Brian Dable and Joe Schoen. There's no disagreement. You didn't have a kicker. And Graham Gano has had injury history. And it happened last year too. And he didn't address it. So of course, that is on Brian Dable and Joe Schoen for roster management. I can totally agree. But I think the defense was much worse in that Week 2 matchup, and that's why they lost. They allowed so much on the ground, so much in the air, couldn't contain Jaden Daniels, couldn't tackle well at all. So it's a mix of everything. And I'm tired of just going in 2 years, fire the staff. 2 years, fire the staff. Just stick with it and build through the draft, because that's what this Giants team pretty much is right now. Deonte Banks, through the draft. Malik Nabers, through the draft. The Giants need to hit on draft picks going forward, because we already know that they are a team that is behind in talent. We already know that. So what the Giants need to do going forward to this year in the draft, next year, and 2 years down the road, they need to have really solid drafts. As of now, Kayvon Thibodeau doesn't look like a great draft pick. We can agree with that. Evan Neal is obviously a bust. We know that. But, Deonte Banks is a questionable CB1. We don't really know yet the ceiling of Deonte Banks and what type of player he is. He's shown flashes that he could be a great cornerback. We have seen that. But he's also, had some times that he just blows off coverage and stuff like that. Micah McFadden. I thought it was a good pick from Joe Schoen. He's been fine. But we need more. And another thing with Joe Schoen is he didn't have to make that Brian Burns trade. That was to Joe Schoen to make that trade. I don't know if we were ready for a trade like that. I don't know, because you traded a very valuable second-round pick that you could have used in the draft to build through. We know this team is not in win-now mode. We know this team isn't a Super Bowl contender. We know that. This team has to rely on the draft, and unfortunately, as fans who have been through so much with this team, we're going to have to be patient. And I hate saying that because they're like, Vin, I've been patient for 5-6 years. Nothing's happened. I'm in the same boat. We're all Giants fans here. We all are sick and tired of starting 0-2 for the 10 of the last 12 years. We're tired of a lot of things. But let's just stick with what we have. Stop making adjustments. Stop making moves in the front office. Because if you look at it from a business standpoint, if you just keep going and 2 years after 2 years after 2 years of just firing and firing, nothing is ever going to change. Nothing. Just because you get a new head coach doesn't mean things are solved like that. I understand the Giants in Brian Dable's first year, they made the playoffs. Awesome. But if you look at that next year, they didn't have enough talent. They didn't draft particularly amazing, right? They haven't, under Joe Schoen, they haven't had great, elite drafts. I haven't looked at a draft and said, okay, this is super good. Of course, the Malik Nabers pick, elite pick. We already know what we're getting into with Malik Nabers. You're getting a wide receiver 1. I said so many times that great offensive teams have a wide receiver 1 and a player to rely on. That's Malik Nabers, all right? A lot of weight is going to be on his shoulders this week because Daniel Jones Can't seem to hit. He relies on Malik Neighbors. He relies on him, and that's fine. That's fine. But then when Neighbors is getting double teamed and all this, and he can't get open at that time, I can't just expect Daniel Jones to keep rushing the football. And another thing is, in week 3, are we going to see Jalin Hyatt? Are we going to see Jalin Hyatt? Because we haven't seen him do anything. We have not seen him do anything. So I'm a little worried with the future with Jalin Hyatt. I think he's a good player. I don't know really what they're doing. I think it's kind of like Slayton is winning the battle against Jalin Hyatt. That's what it feels like. And that's why Jalin Hyatt hasn't gone into the field. But, let's not forget that, Jalin Hyatt has some good attributes as a wide receiver. He's got great speed. I know his packaging and his route packaging may be a little suspect, but why not try him out, man? I'm tired of seeing him on the bench because I feel like this team has some explosiveness. I do. The offensive line has looked great. I haven't even got into them yet. They've looked great as a unit. They have, right? Andrew Thomas has looked great. Illuminor on that right side has looked great. JMS, still questions, but let's hope he gets better. I really liked him in the draft. They got him. I hate saying this, and I know it's only week 3, and I'm probably going to say it every single week, that we very well might have a rough season. Things have already went off the rails. We're 0-2 after 2 weeks. Should be 1-1. But hey, this year is the year of improvement and trying to be as competitive as possible. Because that's what's going to keep Joe Shane a job and Brian Daboll. But if Brian Daboll just continues to go off on the media and all this, I don't want Brian Daboll fired. If anybody's questioning that, I don't want Brian Daboll fired and then all of a sudden going to Bill Belichick. I don't necessarily want that. I want Brian Daboll to have a new QB, and I want to see what they can do. If they can't do anything by year 4, year 5, okay. But I'm tired of this cycle of 2 years and gone, 2 years and gone. Well, technically we're on year 3 now, so I'm tired of it, honestly. I'm really tired of it because you're never going to get anywhere as a franchise if you keep doing that. You're never going to get anywhere. And I think Daboll is a great offensive coordinator. I will say that. He's probably a better coordinator than actual head coach. But that doesn't mean that he can't still be okay. Okay, he's made some questionable decisions with the kicker. Okay, I understand that. I know he's costed us games. I understand that. But I'm going to say it, and I know people are probably going to hate on it. Daniel Jones has also costed a lot for this franchise. In reality, $40 million. You couldn't retain McKinney. You couldn't retain Saquon, even though I understand paying a lot of money to a running back. No need. So I'm fine with that. I was fine with moving on from Saquon. And you couldn't retain... mainly you couldn't retain McKinney, man. McKinney was such a great player for us. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Like they say. But hoping the Giants can maybe get a sneaky win, I hope. Of course, I'm probably the most optimistic Giants fan on YouTube. And we're hoping for some wins, man. I understand this week 3 to week 8, it's going to be a gauntlet. You're going to be taking on teams like Cleveland, Seattle, the Birds of the NFC East, who just lost to primetime Kirk. By the way, this NFC East has been weird. Did not expect the Eagles to lose to the Falcons. Did not expect the Dallas Cowboys to get smoked by Derek Carr. Washington's, of course, Washington. 1-1 on the year. Giants are 0-2. Hoping to be 1-2 after this week. And I guess to wrap it up, my 3 objectives for this game is to continue running the football well, making adjustments on the defense, And, of course, scoring touchdowns. That's fun. It was fun seeing a Malik Neighbors touchdown. It was fun seeing Devin Singletary get in the end zone. This offense can be creative. It's up to Daniel Jones. It's up to the Giants. It's up to the kickers. It's up for the front office. Let's build a team going into this year, going into next year, and going into the further years. I'm tired of making coaching changes and GM changes. I am tired of it. I am. And I know people are going to say, well, Brian Dable and Joe Shane, what have they done really? And all of this, I understand that. Like, I understand that. I know as a Giants fan, it is tough. It is tough because you haven't got to the playoffs consistently year after year. You make it once every, 4 or 5, it feels like. And after you lose in the playoffs, you know that, okay, your next 3 to 4 years as a fan is going to be rough. Okay, we haven't had this wide receiver 1 type since Odell. Okay, I don't think we've had great years recently. I think that's obviously fair to say. But man, this team has some pieces to them. I don't think we can disagree on that. Malik Neighbors is cool. Dexter Lawrence is awesome. I think Bobby Okereke is awesome. And I know it's only 3 players. But Tyler Nubin, Andrew Phillips, those guys have looked good. And Andrew Phillips was drafted by Shane. Tyler Nubin drafted by Shane. We just need to keep building as a team. Don't make stupid trades. Don't make dumb decisions like that in roster management. And I think for the future, it could be bright by just simple, easy decisions in the draft and going forward. And it takes a few years to build a really good football team. It does. Look at the Lions. A few really good drafts that they hit on. An elite offensive line. And it seems like they found their head coach with Dan Campbell. That could be with the Giants. I don't know if it's going to be Brian Dable. I don't know if it's going to be Bill Belichick. I like Brian Dable. I'm not going to say I'm a defendant, but I do like him as a coach. I think he brings energy. I think he has a good vibe. Things might not be a good vibe right now with an 0-2 start, but we're trying to build through something. We're trying to get out and get better players. Players aren't playing to their expectations, but just imagine when they start. Enough of this optimistic stuff. That's going to do it for this podcast. Of course, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get our merch on the Inside the Boot podcast. It's in the link in the bio. Definitely tune in to all of our episodes. Check out our Week 3 picks. Let's hope we can bounce back. And, man, let's hope we can win a Week 3. Let's try and find a way to beat the Cleveland Browns. Of course, we're going to have a post-game on it. Not sure if it's going to be an instant reaction or the day after. I'm not sure. But anyways, guys, of course, that's enough for me. I'm your host, Vin, of the Inside the Boot podcast. And, of course, smash that like button and let's win Week 3.